Today's episode is sponsored by Future State Media, experts in off-Amazon traffic for Amazon sellers. Future State Media will build you a custom-made website to deliver sales for you on Amazon. Built to grab traffic from search engines and social media, your site can be used as a secret weapon for launching products on Amazon or just to stabilize your Amazon sales. It means you can also build an email list on autopilot. Go to futurestatemedia.com for your free guide to Google SEO for Amazon sellers today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Amazing FBA podcast. Today, I'm with Burak Yılga of ForceGet, freight forwarding expert. He spent 7 years in China, in Shenzhen. He's established his own international freight forwarding company from scratch, which is now present in China, US, Dubai, and many other countries. So Burak's now living in Miami. So we're getting quite an international perspective today. And I thought he was an important person to speak to because obviously one of the biggest challenges right now is the supply side and logistics side for Amazon sellers. So really wanted to have Burak on the show. So Burak, warm welcome.
Thank you so much.
So how's life in Miami? We were just chatting about the fact that there's people are carrying on like life is normal in Miami. Is that right?
Yeah, I know. It's, what is it today? Like end of March almost. Things are in China going back to normal, but now, unfortunately, there are more and more cases in the United States, and it looks like, we're going to have a pretty slow month in April and in May. A lot of businesses shut down right now. People are trying to stay in self-quarantine. Nothing official really, I think, except New York. So I'm in the south part in Florida, like a little bit luckier because we have like nicer weather, like a little bit warmer. But rest of the country, I think, is going to be a little bit more struggling with the winter and the cold weather. So we'll see how it will go.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk about China for this episode then. So obviously you spent a lot of time in China, 7 years in Shenzhen. That sounds like a novel or something. So we want to get key takeaways about how to do business in China, what to pay attention for Amazon sellers while you're sourcing from China, particularly in the current situation. So let's get it started with that round of questions. I mean, first of all, is China reopening for business now, or when do you think that will be?
Yes. So 80 to 90% of businesses are back to work. But at the moment, most of the factories, they don't have full capacity for production right now. One of the reasons is raw material suppliers are also having issues with supplying enough raw material to the factories. And another thing is the raw material prices like really increased because there's really high demand right now for most of the product. China, and then one of the worst thing actually when this virus hit China, it was during Chinese New Year. If some people know, Chinese New Year is the largest public holiday in China. It's the most important, almost 800 to 900 million people traveling in mainland China, and maybe almost like 100 to 150 million people traveling abroad. So that's where the virus hit. So already most of the manufacturers were closed. So that was what we were expecting is actually those factories will come back to work end of January, but things have changed like really badly in China, and they had to stay closed until like middle of March. So during this time, Chinese factories, they were having serious issues with the cash flows and not receiving any orders because they were in the public holidays. But once they started coming back to work, now the rest of the world, they have the concern about their health. Most of the countries, the governments like shut down. The countries like Italy, France, Germany, all those countries, they're not doing any business right now, which means Chinese factories don't get any orders from the rest of the world. So we're looking at the period of almost 90 days, not having full capacity working. So it's really massive crisis for Chinese economy. And this is going to have a big effect for the growth of the country for this year. People are back to work. Everybody's wearing masks in China. My office is back to work. We worked from home for some time in China, but now everybody's back to work. It's difficult to find a domestic truck because the prices really increase. And another problem is we don't have enough availability because most of the main ports in China, like seaports and airports, actually, most of them, they're closed. I mean, we all see in the news 80 to 90% of the airplanes like canceled. So it directly have the impact of freight as well, because almost 50 to 60% of the air freight, actually the commercial flights, were made by the passenger flights in a cargo. So now what we are looking at is the majority of the flights are canceled, so the airports are not working fully function. So everything is really connected. When we're talking about we can't really talk about only supply chain because it has also connection with the freight forwarding, the custom, the shipping times, the pricing. So everything is really connected to each other. So China is doing better than a month ago, definitely. But right now they are having problems of receiving orders from the overseas. So I think this is going to have a big impact in the economy, and most of the suppliers are going to have some serious problems with the cash flow.
Okay, so so to try and summarize that, then there's a lot of stuff that's sort of half working. Raw materials prices are up, and sounds like a lot of air freight capacity is being constrained as well as sea freight. So what's the biggest constraint then, would you say? Is it still labor, or do they have most labor back in place now, or is it raw materials, or is it logistics, or is it just a combination of all of them?
I think I would say combination of all of them. Right now, the majority of the people come back to work, except where the Wuhan, where the virus started. It's in the Hubei province, which is one of the largest state in China. So they start actually now removing the people from quarantine, so people are going back to their daily life with the mask and stuff. So there are almost like 30 to 40 million people were in quarantine in Wuhan and in Hubei province, which was like almost 2 months long. So those people are also going back to work in the different cities. They're going back to their factories like in Shanghai and Ningbo, in Guangdong and Shenzhen, Guangzhou, all these like big cities. So they're going back to work. So right now the issue is not really about the people who go back to work. Most of the people are back to work, so factories are okay to produce. They have enough human source now. All the employees back to work, management is back to work. But the issues right now is mostly with the raw material suppliers. It used to be maybe some of our friends or my customers order used to produce in 20 to 25 days. Now the supply chain timing increased almost, I would say, like 30 to 50%. So now some of the factories we work with, they used to produce 30 days. Now it's like almost 45 days. And one of the another issue, maybe most of the people wouldn't think of it, is the product box, the carton box. So there's a big shortage of the carton box in the market, like the shipping supplies and user manuals. So like paper prices increase a lot in China. So this is another problem. Some of the factories, they finish production, but they don't have enough packing material. So everything comes together. So it's really a complex situation. Like everything comes together. And right now, as Forceget Logistics, we are having our shipments shipping on time. We have good relationship with our contractors. We book everything in advance, but we're asking our customers to not let us their shipment time the same day the shipment is ready. We're asking people to give us some time, like heads up, like 7 to 10 days, so that we know what is coming. Because let's say if you send us the booking the last day, it's difficult to find truck. The prices increase because they know that you're kind of desperate. So I think the most important thing for Amazon sellers now to be following up the situation very closely with their freight forwarders, with their factories. It's very, very important to be on top of everything every day. I mean, and Chinese people are okay with that right now because it's difficult time really for sellers, but also for the suppliers because they don't have enough orders, they don't have good cash flow right now, and most importantly, they don't know when the things are going to go back to normal. So they're trying to keep up everything, but it's very, very important for the sellers to be on top of everything. The production time, the pricing, the payment terms. One of the most important thing is the logistics. Right now, when FB like Amazon USA is not allowing people to create shipments except the baby products or essentials like cleaning stuff. So most of the people, even if they have product ready in China, they cannot create the labels and ask the factory to put the labels on the carton, so they cannot really do the shipment. So
okay, so which is a slightly different thing, right? So let's talk about the America side in our next episode, but let's just stay with the Chinese thing for the moment.
Right.
Well, I mean, you mentioned let's just taking the cat out of the bag. Let's talk about that. So if you can get your product made in China, I like the fact you've warned, don't be asking last minute, because last minute looks desperate, and that means when prices go up. So that's something that hasn't changed in my experience in China, often how it works. So what do we need to do to get it from China into the USA then? So you're saying that FBA is no longer an option. What are the options that you're discovering for people in the American side of things?
It's actually a really important question. At the moment, most of our customers who used to use air freight, now we are recommending them to start using sea shipments more. The reason is there's a lot of back cargo, backload shipments back in Hong Kong. As some of you may know, Hong Kong is the largest airport in the world for commercial flights and commercial freight forwarding. So now even the shipments in Hong Kong is waiting almost 7 to 10 days for takeoff. So that's a very big problem. FedEx, UPS, they have a lot of cargo waiting on the line because most of the flights have canceled. So now the problem is, even if you want to pay, so air freight price was like $5 to $6 before the Chinese New Year. Now we're looking at $9 to $10. So it's almost doubled. So a lot of sellers they made their margin calculations and ROI according to the prices before during the regular time. So now when it comes to doubling your freight cost, it's going to really hurt your margin. It's going to hurt your profit. So now what we are offering people is, instead of shipping by air, waiting 7 to 10 days only the cargo to load on the airplane and ship it, do the custom, delivering the local, which is almost like 15 days. We have a different method of shipments, which we call it DDP Fast Sea Shipment. DDP means due to delivery paid. So basically what we do is, as Forsket Logistics, we pick up the shipment from the Chinese factory, send it to the seaport, and transfer by sea shipment, ocean freight, to Los Angeles port. And from Los Angeles port, we are using UPS or FedEx to dispatch in the United States. And this process is taking between 18 to 22 days. So which is very similar to the air freight transit time at the moment. And the price is almost 1/3 of the cost that we're talking about. So for a lot of our clients, what we are offering is instead of using the air freight, we ask them to use sea shipment. And what we do is we take care of everything like China side custom, US custom, tax, and the price we offer them include everything. So it's really great way for the sellers to know their exact cost of the freight service, so they can calculate their margin on the selling side. And some of people will say, hey, Barak, we cannot create FBA labels, so how are we going to do the shipments? So basically what we do is we do the shipment without FBA labels. We send it to our warehouse in Los Angeles, and we wait until we offer them the storage with a very low cost. So once Amazon is allowing you to create those, we help our customers to put the labels in our warehouse in Los Angeles, so you don't need to wait 30 days or 25 days. The shipments go from China to US, so your product is already in the United States. So basically it feels like you have stock already in US, and we do the delivery locally to Amazon the next day. So it's a very efficient plan right now for most of the sellers using a sea shipment to US. We help them to store them in Los Angeles. When Amazon is allowing you to start making labels, create labels, then we help you to put the labels and send it to FBA. Or some of the sellers now start doing FBM. So we also offer drop shipping in our company. So we can keep half of your shipment in our warehouse as an FBA shipment and wait until the shipments are allowed to create in the website and in Amazon.com. Then we can do the shipments to FBA, and the rest of the shipments we can do drop shipping one by one with the FBM shipment. So a lot of people I know, every day I talk to my customers. Some of them like really worry about if they cannot ship it to the FBA. Most of the people, they did their setup so far for FBA shipments only, because it's very easy. Amazon is handling everything. So a lot of people, they cannot really find a good source for the FBM. So we're helping with our existing customers and people.
I was going to ask about that. Yes. So the FBM shipments, obviously, for a lot of people, a new thing, something that they weren't wanting to do before, but now have to. Because as you say, unless you're selling health products or dog supplements or something, then you're unlikely to get shipment into FBA. So, yeah, how do you help with that? And what's your advice on getting FBM set up for the first time?
I definitely recommend people not to keep their products in China, because once Amazon start accepting these shipments, it's going to take everybody start shipping, and it's going to take really longer time for Amazon to receive the car like shipments, and more importantly, activate them in your seller central. We had this issue during the Christmas time, New Year time. A lot of shipments arrive to Amazon, but it doesn't become active in your listing. Maybe it takes like 7 to 10 days. Amazon activate your shipment, like your stock status. Now it's going to be absolutely the same problem, even maybe worse, because we read on the news that a couple of Amazon shipping station has been shut down due to the coronavirus. So we don't know which one is going to have like next, or if we're going to have any of the similar station. So I definitely recommend people to take their strategy 50-50, or maybe 60% FBA, 40% FBM, because right now the announcement is people, sellers will be able to create shipments on the 5th of April. But in my personal opinion, it may take longer than the 5th of April, because things are not going any better. Things are going a little bit worse even. So I think now FBM looks like a really good solution for a short term, and we can help people with this. I recommend highly ship everything you have ready in China to US. Keep some of the stock for the FBA. Whenever the shipment will be able to create it, we ship it to the FBA on behalf of you, and use the making the labels for you. And the rest of the maybe 30 to 50%, I don't know what kind of product people sell, but start on FBM, and we can do drop shipping for you one by one.
Excellent. So when you're selecting a freight forwarder in this particular time, are there particular things that you need to look out for if you're, looking at it? I was going to say not so much a freight forwarder, but somebody to do a fulfillment for you. Let's think about that. So a 3PL, I suppose it would traditionally be called, to do fulfillment for you and warehousing. What are the sorts of things that you would look out for?
Actually, we could also connect that with the choosing a freight forwarder. Right now, it's very, very important when you choose a freight forwarder, you need to make sure that they're offering you the full cost. One of our friend who used a different Chinese freight forwarder, they didn't offer they didn't offer the full price. When the shipment arrived to US, there was like additional tax, there was additional local charges they had to pay. So their cost increased almost 40%. So it is very, very important these days to speak with your freight forwarder and ask them to provide the full price. And there's another risk right now in the market that a lot of Chinese freight forwarders, they are trying to get business, because the business was really down last 2 months. So now they're offering very, very cheap price. So I would highly recommend sellers to find out what is your product tax rate in United States, and make sure that your freight forwarder is paying the right tax with the right tax HS code. HS code is a custom code for each specific product, and it shows what is the percentage of your tax. And one of my friends' shipment stuck in the US custom because their freight forwarder declared in a different HS code. So it's very, very important that I think it's right now, it's very important to stay on top of everything and track everything, like it's the very important time. So make sure once you receive very cheap price, make sure that everything included, make sure that the paying tax is the right HS code, right percentage. And another thing is important with the drop shipping and the warehouses, make sure that companies like the warehouses, they have enough capacity, because right now what we are facing in US, a lot of people are trying to switch to FBM, and they're trying to find the warehouses. Either they don't have enough capacity, or they're overcharging. I think it's important people do a little bit of research and make sure that you're asking what kind of service they're providing, because some of the warehouses offer cheap prices for the shipments, but then it takes like 7 to 10 days or 15 days. Right now, USPS and UPS, they have very full capacity, but it's very important to understand what kind of shipping method that the three the warehouses, drop shipping companies in US are all.
So it sounds like, in summary, that the third-party warehouses or FBM fulfillment houses make sure they've got enough capacity, and it sounds like you need to know what you're getting for your money, because some of the prices are cheap sounding, but the delivery is super slow. So is there any way to evaluate that? What's the best way?
Of course, I think the best thing is to make the best research and try to collect the prices from different options. And I think it's important to understand what is your need, what your customer expecting, because some of the product people really need it as quick as possible. Some of the product people will be like more flexible. Most of the people at the moment is self quarantine, so some product they would need maybe like really fast. Some people would need some products slower than the usual. So it's important to calculate your cost and understand the needs of your customers. And I think it's important to understand different part of the state has different prices. Especially Los Angeles side is kind of expensive, getting expensive, because the demand is increasing and there's not enough warehouse, there's not enough people. Los Angeles port is cutting the shift, which means, like, I'm talking about the seaport, which means there will be more and more overloading in the port. So I'm definitely thinking that the prices will increase, and we're looking at this situation will continue, I believe, in April and May, and things are going to go back a little bit more normal in June, hopefully.
Well, I'm glad you're prepared to make a prediction about that, although that's not quite April the 12th. Donald Trump's famous prediction that America will be back open for Christmas, for Easter, I should say. Sorry. Okay, so tell me a bit about going back to China then, with the suppliers themselves. When you're negotiating with the supplier at the moment, are there particular things you need to look out for? It sounds like we have to be realistic about the fact that raw materials are going up, and particularly cartons and paper is expensive. So do we need to be prepared for quite a big increase in prices there?
I believe so, but I think the tough situation for Chinese suppliers didn't start only like this year, 2020, since the trade war. Since the trade war between China and the United States, it's been going on almost 2 years. The high tax, some of the buyers, they start shifting their purchases from China to other countries, like Taiwan is being a very key supplier country in the Southeast Asia right now. Cambodia, Vietnam. Some of the textile products have moved to Bangladesh, Turkey, India, which right now coronavirus hits almost all the countries. But still, China, I think it's going to be one of the most trustable and reliable supplying channel at the moment. Even if the prices increase, their ability of production and controlling the wires, I think I mean, I wish European countries could have done the same thing as China did. China did a great massive quarantine in the whole country, almost 21 days. Then people go back to work like now. As you mentioned, US, I don't think it's going to be the same for US, but when it comes to the Chinese suppliers, I think right now one of the most important thing is to have a good and long-term relationship with your suppliers. If you're happy with your suppliers, I would recommend to instead of making 5 or 10 orders in a month, try to collect your orders and make an order one time with a larger quantity. So this way you can get a better price and you can fix the price. And you don't have to pay. Most of the factories right now is flexible because they need more business. This is one of the recommendation I do to my customers, that instead of ordering 1,000 piece, let's say 10 times a year, order 5,000 piece one time and do a partial shipments. This way you're going to get a better price. You'll have the price fixed next 5 months. And Chinese factories also secure the business and raw material from the supplier. So they know what your order forecast. This way you can get a better price, pay partially. You don't have to pay everything. You can pay whatever you ship. Let's say you pay 10 to 15% deposit today. You shipped 1,000 piece next month. You pay only the 1,000 piece balance and keep the 15% deposit in the company for the rest of the product that you have, if you're doing a private label. And then you ship a month later another 2,000 piece. So this way you don't have to put all your cash to the factory, buy everything one time. This is a good way to negotiate, I think, for a lot of buyers. And it's important that, if the market starts picking up, like I hope it happens the way Trump says, but in May, in June, July, August, whenever the demand increase, probably it's going to increase the demand. So you will have ready stock in China and you can ship it immediately. I think this is one way to. It could be a good strategy for a lot of sellers if they know their forecast. You don't have to go with 5,000 piece. You can maybe make it like 3,000 piece, 2,000 piece, 3,000 piece. Just order something more than what you used to do. So this way you can be safe with the enough stock and more importantly, a fixed cost.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And actually, I know somebody that's sold very expensive items, and because of that, they came with a very similar deal with their supplier. So that can work really well. Putting down, say, a 10% deposit instead of 30%, and ordering a few, 1,000 units at a time or something. That actually makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's a good tip. Let's wrap up by just trying to talk a little bit more about what to do on the America side of things, because we touched on that before. We talked about the FBA inbound restrictions. Just tell me quickly about your understanding of that, just to make sure we're not skipping over that. I think a lot of people are familiar with it now, but what's your understanding of the basics of the FBA inbound restrictions?
At the moment, people are home and they need a lot of essentials. They need cleaning stuff. They need hand sanitizer, soap, toilet paper, baby powders, pet supplies, the daily important products that people needed for they continue their daily life. So that's why Amazon is given priority to ship those items, which means in order to Amazon to ship those items, they need to receive the items. So if you're selling more like a hobby products, like let's say patio, garden, or some gift items, Amazon says that, hey guys, this is not the time for these products. This is time for us to sell and ship the important items. And it's not only about Amazon receiving these items or shipping these items. Even if you have FBA stock, most of the people I think realize, if you guys didn't realize, or if you haven't been to your listing, go check your listing and see if you're doing FBA, and if it is Prime eligible, then you need to check when is the shipping date. Some of the items show almost 30 days from now on if your customer buys. So which means you have product in FBA, you're selling it like FBA, you think that, but Amazon is not given priority to sell, or let's say not sell, but like ship those items. So it's very important to you to understand when your product will be delivered. So you might be thinking, hey, why my sales are low? Because you might go and see your listing when is this product is eligible to ship. Some of my friends, they have in their shipment, in their listing, it shows 25 days from today. So it's really important. Amazon is giving the priority definitely for the important life-saving items. And now there are a lot of also restrictions, and they're blocking some unfair prices. So even if you are selling this product, it's very important to sell in a fair price. Amazon is blocking the listings. They're removing the listings. So it's important to understand and track the Amazon news. If you're a seller, I definitely recommend you to follow up the news in the seller, or you can stay on top of everything and Google it, like Amazon restrictions. And according to the announcements, this restriction is going to be lifted on the 5th of April. But again, as I said, the demand of the product, like the face mask or hand sanitizer, like the soap or cleaning items, there are more and more demand. So I think this time is not going to be 100% true that 5th of April things are going back to normal. I think it's going to be at least another 10 to 15 days more.
Yeah, that makes sense, because they are overwhelmed at the moment, and sure, they've advertised for 100,000 new employees, but that won't happen overnight, I think. So tell me about the FBM options as well. We've already talked about how you can get hold of a 3PL and how to check them out. What about the shipping time then? What is going to be a realistic shipping time for you to set on your Amazon account for FBM?
I think there will be two options. If you already have an FBA product in the Amazon warehouse and you see that your product is not shipping fast, you need to take out some of your stock and send it to, let's say, our warehouse that we can do FBM for you. But also the time of that is not the way Amazon promises. It's going to take much longer than the usual time. Normally creating removal order was maybe like 10 days, 15 days, you receive the top. Now we're thinking about like almost double. So if you don't have stock from your supplier, it's difficult for most of the people to react fast, because Amazon is not offering fast removals. If you're lucky have enough that you already have more stock coming, it's definitely makes sense to use FBM. Right now, unfortunately, most of the warehouses in US are not accepting new accounts, new product, because there's not enough capacity. So if you have option to start doing an FBM business, I strongly recommend people to do it, because as I say, of course, my prediction is only my own personal opinion, but the things we're talking and we are hearing in China side, we're thinking and talking with people in US side, the FBA is not going to go back to normal pretty much 4 to 6 weeks time. So it's very important for people to start doing an FBM, and most of people don't have setup to bring the product their own home and shipping, because it's also a little bit risky now to go to the USPS store or UPS store. There are a lot of people, they might be even closing. Some stores they start operating from the main headquarters. So that's why it's important to have an option to do the FBM with the right company. As I said, I hope people can find a right partner in this moment, because a lot of companies that we talk, they don't accept new accounts because they don't know what's going to happen. Because some of the now we know that like San Francisco shut down the city almost like a week ago for the time of like three weeks. So which means that some of the warehouses also are not working. So it may sound a little bit crazy, but if I were if I'm an FBA seller, I wouldn't even ship my product to only one warehouse. I would try to choose 2 different states. Let's say one is in, I don't know, North Carolina, one is in California, because this way, even if one of the states comes up with an emergency and they shut down the businesses, shut down the warehouses, you don't have an option, and your product will be stuck in those warehouses. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to predict right now, but it's my personal opinion. It's better to be cautious and have more options than just stick with only one plan and then pray for it. At the end of the day, we all do business, and we work with the our own decision the correct way, what our heart says, what our logic says. But I think it's important to follow up the daily news and trying to reduce the risk and try to find at least 2 locations for your shipments. This way, if one of them goes wrong, another option you're going to have, unless you don't want everything stops.
That does make sense. Yeah. Having more than, as they say, one is the loneliest number, as they say in business. So great. Well, there's some really practical tips. So thank you very much for filling us in on that. Final question for you then is, what do you think is the next few weeks outlook? Let's split that up into China and then the next few weeks in the USA. What do you think's going to be happening for the next few weeks?
Right now, I think we don't have much problem with China. I mean, I hope it's going to go with that, or back to the regular life, social life. They don't really go out or whatever, but they're wearing masks and they go back to work. They go to the factory. So from the business side, things are going back to normal in China. I'm sure most of people's supplier are writing, hey, we are back to work. Do you need this? Do you need that? Like they're trying to create more businesses for their companies. So China side looks like are pretty much, I mean, they're doing better than before. Right now, we have a serious capacity problem for the air freights. That's why I ask people to consider sea shipment instead of, hey, I'm going to wait 3 days, 5 days and ship it by air. Instead of doing that, act today and start processing the shipments with sea, which has a much lower cost and better capacity options, like more options. I mean, it's not as well as before, but it's still doing better than the air. So that's why if you have stock in China, don't wait, just ship it and send it to any warehouse in US. If you have a problem with that, you can find our website, the options, you can contact to us. And when it comes to US, I think April and May, it's going to be pretty slow month for the businesses. Same with the Europe, UK, Canada. We also have some customers. They do FBA in Europe. Unfortunately, things are very, very slow in Europe right now. We don't have much options for the deliveries. The governments are restriction many deliveries, many businesses, like they shut down almost everything in Europe. UK is a little bit more flexible now. The shipping time is of course longer for UK. Canada is the same. Most of the businesses closed for 2 weeks. So if you don't have a fast plan, maybe it's better to wait and see what happens. But this thing is going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks for United States and Canada. So I think if you have an option, it's time to change it to FBM business today. 30%, 40%. The worst case, you only pay the removal fee, and then 4 to 6 weeks later, you can ship it back to the Amazon if it doesn't work out. But it's definitely better than just doing nothing and just wish the Amazon is going to ship your orders, which is going to be harder than the usual time.
Absolutely. Like they say in the Marines, hope is not a strategy, right? So hoping that FBM will get magically back on track really quickly, as you say, not the best strategy. So final questions then, how do people get hold of you guys if they want to consider working with ForceGet and with you, Burak?
You can always visit our website. It's called forceget.com. We have all the contact details there, email, WhatsApp, and WeChat. We have team in US and we have team full-time in China. And we are almost online 24 hours. And after April 31st, we are coming out with a new platform where you can track your shipments online. You can see your invoices. You can send an inquiry from our website. We can offer you the price through our website. All the communication will go through our website. So some of the companies now, they only based in China. It's difficult for most of the overseas sellers to communicate with them because of the time difference. So we have this advantage being the team in here. And more importantly, we're going to have everything online tracking, online payment options. So it's going to be a big, hopefully, advantage for our company and our customers to manage their inventory. It's very important to know when your shipment is arriving, what is the tracking numbers, if everything's going to be on time or not, any delay, we're going to send you the notification our system. So I think it's going to be a big advantage for most of the Amazon sellers to use our service to see where's their shipment, when it's going to be delivered. After it's delivered, if everything's okay, everything will be on the system, the delivery notes, the delivery proofs, the invoices. So it's going to be very easy for them to manage everything from one system, and the rest of things they need to do is only focus on their selling points.
Sounds great. Well, it's certainly worth checking out. And you said that's happening from late April 2020 onwards. Yes. Okay, right. But in the meantime, people can get hold of you and start setting up using you guys as one of Absolutely. The FBM options. Okay, great. So first, forceget.com. Well, look, just remains for me to say many thanks for coming on, talking us through a tricky time, but it sounds like we have got options. And as you said, in the end, I think having more than one option, it sounds like your basic advice is get going with using Serve Freight, don't leave stuff stuck in China, and have more than one option. Sound like the voice of common sense, especially when it comes to logistics. So, Burak, thank you very, very much for your wise advice.